3, hit it!
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to today's Caffeine for the Soul. And I've done several podcasts over the years talking about pressure and how I think in one of them I talk about it as one of the four horsemen of the mental apocalypse, something that we kind of think of as normal, but don't really see how much it interferes with our ability to perform at our best. And sometimes it's because we think it's inevitable. We don't realize that pressure is self-inflicted. You can say, no, this is a high-pressure situation. But there really isn't such a thing as a high-pressure situation. There's no pressure the way we experience pressure in nature. There's physical pressure, like you can press something together, and that creates something we'd call pressure. But pressure, the way human beings experience it, is metaphoric. It's actually thought. It's not a property of any situation. So I remember once I was talking about this at a seminar in Australia that I was leading, and there was a business seminar, and there was one woman who was clearly not only unimpressed, but wanted to make it very clear to me that she was unimpressed. But I don't know if you remember newspapers, kids, but like she opened a newspaper in the audience while I was talking, and which I thought was funny. And so in the first break, I went over to her, and she was a bit sheepish. She apologized. I said, no. I'm just curious why you sort of were so uninterested. And she said, well, it's just you're saying that stress and pressure are not properties of our jobs or the economy, and that's so ridiculously not true in my case. And I said to her, okay, well, tell me what you mean. And she said, well, what I mean is if you had my job, you would feel stress and pressure. No question. I said, okay, show me. And so she was the COO of a company that merged with another company in a move that I had never seen before. This new company decided to keep both CEOs, but fire the other COO. So essentially, her job was to take the vision of two separate CEOs from two separate companies and make them happen in this new organization. And she drew the org chart, if you've ever seen a business org chart. And it was funny because they were like these two people at the top, and then she was in the middle, and then it was just like a waterfall of humans that she was responsible for. And when she first started drawing out the org chart, I will admit, I started to feel like pressure and like stressed. And I was like, ugh. And then at a certain point, I just burst out laughing. And she said, what? And I said, I promise you, I would not feel any pressure doing your job. And she said, how can you say that? And I said, because it's impossible. So I wouldn't think I was supposed to be able to do it. So I would just show up and do my best. Now, she kind of got that. She hadn't seen that the reason she experienced it as pressure is she'd bought into an expectation for how it was supposed to work. She hadn't seen her role in making it feel like pressure. Because there was, again, remember, the only pressure in nature is two things squeezing together. There's nothing actually squeezing her, but her own thoughts about how the hell do I make this work. Now, the title of today's episode is the question I want you to ask yourself. As honestly as you can, does pressure work for you? Now, my blanket answer is it doesn't really work for anyone. And the reason I say that is the people who normally say, oh, no, I perform really well under pressure. What they mean is they find it easier to focus when they feel like the stakes are high. They find it easier to drop all other things that normally are distracting them or pulling at their attention when they sense that it really matters. But that's not a feeling of pressure. That's the feeling of focused attention that's the heart of the flow experience. That's the heart of the experience that a mountain climber has if they're free climbing or they're on a particularly dangerous bit where like time stops and the world goes away and all there is the next handhold and the next place to put their big toe to create leverage and hold themselves up. But if for you really feel like pressure works for you, great, have at it. for me, I've come to see that the feeling of pressure, which I now know is created by me, it's not a function of my job, it's not a function of the world, it just doesn't help. So it was kind of curious that I noticed that a few weeks back I was feeling pressure, and I talked to Digital Michael, which is the AI twin that my team and I created as a sort of a digital version of me that can coach people all over the world. And as part of the testing, of course, I'm testing it too, and I found it really effective. And one of the things it was pointing out when I was talking to it about what I was going on was that I was the one creating the pressure. And the question was, well, does that work for you? And it was so interesting because a couple of weeks later, so very recently, I was so much stuff was going on. In fact, it was all around the launch of Digital Michael out into the world. And you can try Digital Michael out for yourself. Go to michaelneill.ai and you can set yourself up for a free trial. But I was sitting there and I was just feeling all this pressure, and I just had that thought, wait, does pressure work for me? And it was like, oh, no. And because I know that I'm the one who creates it, it literally disappeared in that moment. And over the next few days, I was able to get on with it, do what I could do it when I was up for it, and get everything done to move things forward and get Digital Michael out into the world. So if pressure doesn't work for you, great news. You don't have to create it. And if it does work for you, great news. You probably still don't have to work too hard to create it because you're probably already habituated to applying that pressure and raising the stakes and make it seem super important so that you'll feel the way that you think it's helpful to feel to create the results you want to create in the world. Have fun, learn heaps, happy exploring, and I'll talk with you soon.